Peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Happy Thursday, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in this afternoon. Folks, we got a lot of great conversations scheduled for you today. First up, we got to talk about some of the latest developments in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian as it has pummeled the state of Florida, and it looks like it's making its way to Georgia and the Carolinas. We'll bring you some of the latest details about what this massive storm has done to that part of the country. Also, can we talk about physician burnout? It is very, very real with all of these public health crises happening across the country. We say that these doctors and those who have been caring for us during this very, very important time of need maybe need some care themselves. We're going to be checking in with Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, the cannabis doctor, to talk about this phenomenon of how physicians and doctors are just simply saying, I'm done, I'm exhausted, and the implication that it can have on our health system. And then later, can we talk a little bit about what's happening and with the FDA, how they are looking to redefine the word healthy when it comes to food? I want to have a conversation with you and our culture crew member, Brother Sinedu Wakorfor, to talk to us about what we consider to be healthy food in America and so much more. So, folks, we got conversations lined up, and I got something for you for Trends Post and Doing the Most. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, good afternoon and happy Thursday, folks, and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to hear from you as we are having some big conversations today. Make sure y'all join us online to be a part of our online culture crew. That's always got some great stuff to say. That's always providing their insight and analysis. And this is our way of connecting with you to make sure that you have a voice in these discussions just as much as I do and as much as our guests do. So very, very excited to hear from you about what you have to say about these various topics. And I'm super, super excited to have you joining me today. Big shout out to Black Star Network. As always, folks, as we continue to have these discussions, make sure you continue to show your support for Black Star Network financially and otherwise. You can go directly to our website at blackstarnetwork.com, where you can support Black-owned media that's telling our story, pleading our case, and most importantly, having conversations that are culturally relevant to where we are right now. So make sure y'all go to blackstarnetwork.com and show your support. All right, first up, let's talk about Hurricane Ian. If you're in the state of Florida, man, my heart and prayer go out to all of those who have been affected by this hurricane, a massive storm category that almost hit category 5 levels across in that part of the country. Storm winds of up to 155 miles per hour, folks. Take a look. I mean, if you haven't seen some of these videos, it's just crazy. Take a look at this. Hurricane Ian, one of the strongest storms in U.S. history. 2 million people in Florida without power, and they're saying that number could rise as more and more folks, as we're talking about the aftermath of the storm. 911 callers stranded in homes. I'm sure that by now, some of you probably have seen some of the videos on social media and in other spaces where you just see people trying to figure it all out, what to do. Homes flooded, businesses flooded, streets flooded. Governor Ron DeSantis has come out to say that this is some of the worst flooding in Florida history. And this storm is considered to be one of the 5th largest storms in U.S. history, knocking out power for over 2 million people. Now, some folks are saying that, like I mentioned, that the power knocked out was 2 million. I've seen just a few moments ago, Fox News reported it saying it's about 2.5 million people are without power in the state. And that number can grow. Now, in terms of casualties, and there hasn't yet to be a number to be determined if there were or if there are any casualties from this storm. But again, when you look at all of that has happened, especially in the southwest part of Florida, man, oh man, I just can't believe this. And the state of Florida is putting politics aside and asking for federal help. Of course, President Joe Biden has come out. He said some remarks yesterday at a conference that he would that the Biden Harris administration will be in full-fledged support mode to help those who have been impacted by this massive storm, this massive hurricane. FEMA came out and said, of course, that they will be on the ground to help those who are in need in that part of the country, and so much more. Now, take a look at some of these latest developments outside of the power outages of 2 million plus people. Take a look, folks. Check this out. USA Today also reported this, that in Naples, Florida, the first floor of a fire station was inundated with about 3 feet of water, and firefighters worked to salvage gear from a fire truck stuck outside the garage in even deeper water. There was a video that was posted by the Naples Fire Department. It showed the severity of the damage. Now, the other part of it is that Ian's strength at landfall tied to the 5th strongest hurricane when measured by wind speed to strike the U.S. 5th. It's tied with 5 other hurricanes that reach 150 miles per hour, 2 in Florida, 2 in Louisiana, and 1 in Texas. Now, this also, Hurricane Ian has brought up the conversation as we are looking at dealing with everything from damage, restoring the damage to looking for any type of victims of this hurricane. This also brought up the issue of climate change, and how, we're in a situation where we may start to see more of these high-powered storms because of where we are with the climate in this country. And so there is great concern about this. Here's the other place that is some concern about the upcoming states that that Ian is headed toward. And if you're in the state of Georgia, if you're in the state of South Carolina, this might be a huge concern for you. Now, they're saying that it has downgraded from a Category 4 storm to a tropical storm, but now it may get stronger again because of some of the elements in the atmosphere, that it may get back into a hurricane status. Wow. Let me share with you what's happening. The great concern there is in Georgia and South Carolina. Take a look. This came out of the New York Times as they reported on the storm. They said after Hurricane Ian barreled through Florida, moving offshore later Thursday, is expected to turn north and make a second landfall in South Carolina on Friday as a strong tropical storm close to hurricane strength. Heavy rainfall and storm surge were expected to produce flash, urban, and river flooding across parts of South Carolina, especially along the coast and southeastern Georgia on Friday and through the weekend. The National Weather Service has said the storm was then expected to weaken after moving farther inland across the Carolinas on Friday night and Saturday, according to the Weather Service. Now, the governors of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia declared states of emergency and urged residents to monitor forecasts and make contingency plans, such as having emergency kits ready. Strong wind gusts and heavy rainfall are expected to cause downed trees, power outages in Florida, according to the National Weather Service in Atlanta. So I want to just hear from you. Make sure that you post your comments on our YouTube page. Let's have a little quick chat about, what you've experienced, especially if you're in those areas that have been affected by Hurricane Ian. Give us an update of where we are, with you, your family, your neighbors, your community. If you are in Florida, if you know people in Florida, did you have a chance to check on my mother-in-law lives in Florida? So I checked on her, and by the grace of the God, she's well. I have other family members that are in Florida. They stayed indoors. They kept themselves low. They kept themselves in place. And so when you see situations like this, you do not want to play games, folks. You do not want to play games. And one of the big things that was announced yesterday, that after a certain point, they closed down the roads, did not want people to be traveling or to try to leave moments before the storm hit. You're talking about wind storm surges as high as 12 feet. Take a look at this video of the bridge. I mean, this is what was happening yesterday. Can you imagine trying to drive on a road like this? No, sir, not doing it. I'm definitely not doing it, folks. But I can only imagine you trying to get out of this state of Florida. Now, I'm not too familiar with Florida, so my Florida watchers, y'all tell me if you are able to check in today. how the movement of traffic getting out of Florida or getting out of some of the the areas that have been affected by Ian, how that has been, it will certainly be good. All right, let me check in with you as you are posting your comments, and folks continue to post your discussion points in our YouTube chat, on our streaming page on YouTube, on our Facebook page. And I just want to get a quick update from all of you, hopefully, and my prayers go again out to the families, out to the communities. I really, really hope and pray that everyone stayed safe and they weren't, the casualty count stayed zero, because these storms are so unpredictable, folks, so unpredictable. And so we can talk about the politics and all of that stuff, but at the end of the day, when Mother Nature calls, when Mother Nature speaks, oh, you best to listen. We got to all stop what we're doing and listen. Lenora, you check it in first time as we kick off this part of the discussion today. Lenora, you said DeSantis will deny climate change, but he won't deny that help, which is much needed, but making this a political issue on all conservative TV. Let me tell you something. This is the poison. The poison is that we take a situation that we have no control over, folks. And this has to be this is like the gift and the curse of Mother Nature, right? We have no control over climate. We have no control over natural disasters. We have no control over the weather, right? And so it's a humbling thing just as much as a scary thing, because we don't have control of it. We can't politicize it. We can't say it's your fault, this person's fault, or that person's fault. Tell that to Mother Nature. And guess what? Mother Nature's going to be like, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, Mother Nature's going to do what she's going to do. But I hope it doesn't become a political thing. And to your point, Lenore, one of the concerns that I have is that, if this is going to be the kumbaya moment that the Republicans really cares about the people, I hope this is going to be a situation where we saw it with Katrina, where Black folks and marginalized folks in the community did not get the help that they deserved to get, were left stranded. They did not, they weren't a part of the rescue efforts there. I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case. And I hope it doesn't get political. I hope it doesn't get political. If it does become political, it shows us where we are in this country, which would be a sad state of affairs. Lenore, thank you so much for your points. It's truly appreciated. All right, Shalinda, let's see what you got to say. You said a CEO in Florida told employees that it was a nothing burger and told them to man up and come to work. Shit. What? Ooh. A nothing burger? Come to work. Please, you better be lucky you have a building. If you got a building. I don't know. Hey, Shalendi, tell me what part of Florida this CEO was had a business at. And I'll tell you, if you still got a job come Friday. What? Craziness. Absolute madness. Wow. Conscious thought. Good to hear from you, bro. You said Mother Nature is never to be played with. How about that? How about that? How about, I'm telling you, this is the beauty of nature, right? You think you're in control of a situation until you come in contact with a force that you don't have no control over. That's when you realize, yeah, I'm a part of this I'm a small part of an ecosystem. Small part. Good point, Conscious Thought. Thank you so much. Brother Damon, you said Mother Nature is undefeated. Facts. We always say the internet. Nope, it's Mother Nature. It is absolutely Mother Nature. Corinna, good to see you, hear from you, sis. Thank you so much. You said, hey, Culture Crew. You said, I feel for the folks on the west coast of my state and grateful South Florida was spared. All right, good to hear that update. August just made 30 years since Andrew, and I'll never forget that storm. Oh, my gosh, yeah. Corinna, you're right. It's been 30 years. Wow, I remember that storm. I remember, 30. Yeah, I was a little boy. Yeah, that storm, that would have been 92. Man, massive storm, massive storm. You're right. And good. And I'm glad that South Florida was spared. I heard that there was some that people in Miami, Tampa. I was doing some reading, and people in Miami and Tampa were trying to pretty think I got some winds down there, some rain, but nothing as bad as some of the other parts of Florida. Corinna, thank you so much for that update. Rashida Guest, you just said nothing burger, just like 9/11 at the World Trade when the bosses told those people to go back upstairs. Please, please. We ain't gotta talk about that. It's very simple. I'm not doing that. Fire me. Fire me. David McNulty, you checked in and said, tell the CEO to go for a walk on the beach or off a long pier. How about that? How about tell him to walk down that little highway we just showed video of. Say, let's see if this is boy. Let me tell you, and then some of us, it's crazy, right? This is part of the culture though. We look for some of us look for clips of weather people and reporters out there in the storm, reporting on the storm, getting hit by debris. I saw one video, man he was reporting for the National Weather Channel, and he's out there. I mean, a man is trying to do his job, right? Next thing you know, this big tree branch just comes across, pow, hit him knocks him straight off the feet. Boom, he gets down. He come right back. Yeah, Jim, I'm all right. It's windy out here. Like, bro, we know it's windy. Like, we know it's windy. The man in the studio said, "Hey, come on in. Just come back in. Don't even. We'll have a conversation. Get in, because you trying to do something impossible. You trying to be in a place that you shouldn't be, which is in a storm. You know what I mean? Never understood that. Look, after all my years of media, folks, I never understood why folks will go out there to do that level of reporting. Like, nah, I'm not reporting on that. It's raining outside. It's windy outside. There's a storm. Back to you." It would be a very simple report from me. But it's serious. This is very, very serious. And again, if you're in the Georgia, Carolinas, they're saying even Virginia, if you're in these states, lock down, hunker down, don't play around with this. Don't play around. Take a look at more footage. We see it here. Hey, Keenan, please, brother, let's make that a little bit bigger. Let's see what we're looking at. Look at this, folks. Folks, I'm not playing. I'm not going outside. I'm not going outside. We're not playing with this. It's so unpredictable. Look at this, the wind and the storm surges on this thing. Feet upon feet high. Never seen nothing like this. And I went there and I read that in some places in Florida, y'all get this and y'all tell me if I'm wrong, but I read this. There's some communities in Florida where the insurance, some folks just didn't have the homeowners insurance, renters insurance. They didn't have the insurance. So can you imagine you going through a major storm like this, a major natural disaster like this, and then you find out you don't have no homeowners, not covered. I mean, we're talking about millions upon millions, and it might even hit the $1 billion mark. It might even go that far, folks, for the state of Florida. We might be really looking at $1 billion at least. We don't know yet. This might be this part of the conversation is a little bit premature because the storm is still out there, still hovering. But the amount of damage that was done as a result of this storm is going to be unimaginable. Unimaginable. So many homes, so many businesses, so many people. And what do you do with all of that? It's going to be a great, great test for the Biden-Harris administration. All right. Tiana, you checked in and said, "Oh, I would have quit right there on the spot. They don't pay enough to get slapped by a tree." Come on. They don't pay enough. I don't care how much TV time you get me. I don't care how much TV time you give me. No. Not going out there. Not going out there. So, when we look at some of the, I'm just taking a look here of just some of the other issues that we're seeing coming out of Hurricane Ian. And you can just go, again, talk to your family, talk to your friends. If you have folks in the in those areas, make sure that you do your due diligence to check up on it, to check on folks. If you want to get more information about the storm, you could definitely go to the White House. The White House, of course, the United States government. Let me pull up FEMA and Keena, let's pull up the FEMA website, bro, so that way folks can get some more information on who should be responsible. FEMA.gov. Y'all know Federal Emergency Management Agency for the U.S. They got it right there on their front page. Hurricane Ian, talking about life-threatening storm surge, significant flooding. And so there's some information that you should go to for FEMA.gov. If you want to also go to WhiteHouse.gov, and we're going to pull up this. There it is right there. Boom. There it is. So that would be the source to get any information about what happening with the storm. If you are looking for some more details about which way the storm is going, you can check out the National Weather Service. And Keenan, let's bring that up as well, big bro. Weather.gov. That's the website for the National Weather Service. And they have a map of the affected areas of the storm. And you don't want to play it around. There's already a hurricane warnings issued for South Carolina. So you can see right there at the top, there's warning for South Carolina. The storm is expected to re-strengthen into a hurricane before making another landfall along the coast of South Carolina. So there has been a hurricane warning that has been issued for the entire coast of South Carolina. Life-threatening storm surge, damaging hurricane force winds, and flooding is possible. Wow. So those are the two places, folks, that you want to look to get. These are government agencies. You want to make sure that you stay in tune with what's happening, the direction of the storm, the impact that it can make in the Carolinas and Georgia and other places. And most importantly, use the best of intelligence to stay safe. Check on your family and friends as always in those areas. And let's hope and pray for the best to get through this very, very trying time. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about how physicians are burning out as a result of public health crisis that continue to plague the United States. We check in with Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams to give us her insight about what she's seeing inside of the industry and what can we do to make sure that our doctors don't say, I'm done. Stay with us. That conversation is coming up next right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, it's time for us to shift gears to talk about something that we had a little bit of conversation about during the height of the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. But now we're really starting to have even more in-depth discussions about the impact that public health crisis, such as COVID and other health crisis from a national health crisis, has had on the medical community. More importantly, has had on doctors. Now, a number of folks that tune in, and I just seem to always have these discussions, right, with nurses, healthcare professionals, doctors, those who work in the medical industry are saying, look, not enough is being done to take care of those who take care of us. I'm going to say that again. Not enough is being done to take care of those who take care of us. So today we wanted to look at a new survey that was just reported on, where it says this, and take a look at this, folks. This is talking about physician burnout being at has reached distressing level, according to a new research. They found this. Take a look. It's according to the New York Times. They said, based on this new survey, that 10 years of data from a nationwide survey of physicians confirm another trend that worsened through the pandemic. Burnout rates among doctors in the United States, which were already high a decade ago, have risen to alarming levels. Now, results released this month and published in the Mayo Clinic Proceedings, a peer-reviewed journal, show that 63% of physicians surveyed reported at least one symptom of burnout at the end of 2021 and the beginning of 2022, an increase from 44% in 2017 and 46% in 2011. Only 30% felt satisfied with their work-life balance compared with 43% 5 years earlier. Now, burnout among physicians has been linked to higher rates of alcohol abuse and suicidal ideation. This is the phenomenon of idealizing suicide as a way to relieve some of the burdens of life, as well as increased medical errors and worse patient outcomes. In May, the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, issued an advisory. All right, so we wanted to talk a little bit more about this, and so we are bringing back our system to give us some insight about what's really going on with doctors in the medical profession. We have Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, who is the author and a physician. She's author of the book Courage in Cannabis. She has been an advocate for cannabis, and it might be the relief that we need for some of these physicians that feel burned out. Dr. Williams, thank you so much for joining us again. How are you this afternoon?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Doc, what's going on? I mean, we're seeing distressing levels of burnout among doctors. And I'm wondering, Doc, is this as a result of patient demands? Is this a result of the way the medical system is set up, the system and the demands that's put on doctors to perform, to do their jobs better? What is there one source, or do we need to say, okay, could be a ton of different reasons for this? We got the doctor with us. Did we lose connection? All right, I think we will bring the doc back, Dr. Bridget Cole. There we go. Go ahead, Doc. Thank you. We had Dr. Williams. All right, we're going to have Ken Keenan. I know you're working on it. Folks, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Make sure you post your comments in on the YouTube and Facebook pages. What do you attribute to being the reason, and more importantly, Have you noticed this? Have you noticed there to be a burnout with physicians, especially those of you that work in the industry? All right, let's bring Dr. Bridget Cole Williams back in. Doc, you with us now?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
I hope so.
Awesome.
You can hear me.
We just have a little bit of it sounds like a little,
at least over the last 20 years, an accumulation of issues that have happened over the last 20 years with patients' demands, the healthcare system demands. We have an issue where there are more and more medications, more and more research, decreased compensation for the physicians. We have really bad PR. People don't trust the health system and they don't trust their doctors anymore. And when you look at what COVID added to this, it only led to more and more problems for us. Physicians have always had a higher rate of suicide than the average population. And if you look at how the system has changed over the last 20 years or more, this is an issue that we need to address. Physicians are leaving in droves, patients are leaving in droves, and we need to find something that brings our healthcare system back to a healthy place.
So what does that? So how is that relieved? How do we relieve the burden on doctors? Because the last thing we need in this country is for doctors to go on strike, for doctors to walk out of hospitals, for doctors to say, "I'm done."
Yeah.
So what do we need to do? Is this? And I'm saying it from a community side. I don't think we can quote unquote control the powers that be in terms of the systemic side, but at least those of us who are the patients, those of us who depend on physicians to be their best so they can help us to be our best. What do we need to do?
Absolutely. So I definitely, the best parts of my day have always been the patients that I connect with and that connect with me. And so when you have that friendly face that's willing to understand, to share what's going on with them and give the physician the time to actually get it done. It's a service industry, but it's also a personal relationship business as well. And if we can take the time to build that relationship with our physician, I think the physician will feel rewarded at the end of the day. The fact of the matter is there's a bigger push to see patients faster and to see more in the day. So if I'm running through patients every 15 minutes, there's a new diagnosis and a new pill. And if you don't like the pill, I give you another one. We really have created a system that is a pharmaceutical industry and not a health industry, not a health system. You should know your doctor and your doctor should know you. And if you're not developing that relationship, that is part of the problem.
And if we're saying that to be the case, what are hospitals doing on their side of this discussion? Are they making it? I mean, when we have talk about work life, for example, there are some companies, Doc, as you probably know, that will go extra lengths. They will probably, extend break times. They're 4-day work weeks. They start to say, okay, it looks like our workforce, our employees are suffering from A, B, and C, so this is what we're doing. Are we seeing that type of changes with hospitals and in relationship with doctors and physicians?
I've definitely seen the attempt, and I would be wrong to say that there hasn't been some efforts, over the last probably 15 years or so, how residents are treated and the ability to give them some time off after being at the hospital awake for several hours. They have to take a certain amount of hours off, which is critical if you want less medical errors, right? There's definitely been issues as far as trying to get more coaching and support. I'm a health and wellness coach for other physicians. That's part of what I do because I wanted to help other doctors in this space. But I think there's more that needs to be done. And to be quite honest, when you said we don't want to see doctors walking out, we don't want to see them go on strike, the problem is that physicians are not unionized. We don't have a central voice that really represents us as people, as humans that do this job to serve others. We had an opportunity maybe years ago to get that, but there's really not a voice that represents us as people and not just as a commodity.
Wow, I did not know that doctors weren't unionized. I thought there was some association or some group where doctors, can can become organized and advocate for their interests and their needs?
There's a lot of medical organizations that
Okay.
represent as a commodity, that represent us as, providing medical information and saying that they're working on our behalf, but they don't really represent you as an individual in your workplace, as unions do, right? They make sure that the workplace is healthy for you. They make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. They make sure that wages are appropriate for the work that you're putting in. There's nothing like that for physicians.
Right. But you're saying, like, in the terms of the union, like what we see with, the SEIU, with we're seeing in some of the, dealing with some of the other industries, there isn't a centralized space for doctors.
Not at all.
And so, Doc, when let's talk a little bit about the impact of this. I mean, this is on this research was done based on the whole industry, but let's talk about Black doctors like yourself and other Black doctors. It's only a small number of you, right? that is in these medical spaces. So how are Black doctors handling all of the changes, whether it's coming from the public health side of like a COVID-19 to even the institutional racism side that we see that Black doctors like yourself and others still have to combat each and every day? What is the level of burnout? And before you answer this question, I want to throw this other quote up there because I want to give people a better understanding of what this means to have burnout. Take a look at this, folks. Burnout, now, according to, now I'm just going to try to read through this very quickly. According to the idea of burnout has become ubiquitous. The condition has a definition in medical literature. According to, let me see here. Yeah, the Maslow Burnout Inventory, first published in 1981, measures burnout on 3 dimensions: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization from work, and sense of personal accomplishment. I'm going to go through that again. Emotional exhaustion, depersonalization from work, and sense of personal accomplishment. In 2019, the National Academy of Medicine released a 312-page report on physician burnout, carefully laying out the current understanding of the issue and steps that people in the medical profession could take to address it. Dr. Shannafeld, who helped write the report, said that evidence suggested that many doctors' dissatisfaction with their work could be caused by an incongruence between what they cared about and what they were incentivized to do by the healthcare system. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you got emotional exhaustion, you're feeling disconnected from your work and sense of personal achievement. And then to add to that, you're in a moral dilemma, it sounds like, Dr. Cole. Dr. Bridget, you're in a moral dilemma between what you think is important, what you should be caring about, versus what the system said, no, what we need to care about is the bottom line. I'm watching the show The Resident right now. My wife and I have been binge watching the show The Resident. And this just opens my eyes to the business of care.
Absolutely.
And it's just like like when you see it, and of course this is Hollywood and I get that part, but it doesn't seem like it's a far cry from what's actually happening when you're talking about, well, we're not going to take new patients. We're not going to do these procedures. No, let's have testing for new medical products happening in some of these hospitals. Let's think about the bottom line of expanding the hospital and not improving services. Like all these conversations. And I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, this is very, very real. Can you help us get some better understanding of that as we're talking about Black doctors?
Absolutely. So for many of us as Black men and women that wanted to become physicians, we wanted to help others. We wanted to help our community. We've seen things happen with our family members. We've seen things that happen with us personally, and we want to do better. For me, my father had colon cancer growing up, and that group of physicians would come in their white coats. They wouldn't acknowledge me or my mom, my brother. They wouldn't even acknowledge my father, who was an incredible, intelligent and dynamic man. They would talk amongst themselves, walk out, until the next group that would come in. And as a kid, I said, I know I can do that better. So I got into medicine because I cared about people and I wanted to give our people integrity. and to see them and take care of them in a way that they felt respected. The fact of the matter is, when you're dealing with 15-minute visits, when you're dealing with the bottom line, when you're dealing with more pharmaceuticals and what the criteria is to maintain your job, then you start to detach. You start to lose focus. Many of us wanted the art of medicine. No one even talks about that anymore. The art of medicine is seeing each individual and taking the medical knowledge, even evidence-based medicine. I'm not saying that we veer way off track, but you take that medical knowledge and you apply it to the individual that's sitting in front of you and really address them in a way that is something that they can take in and is right for them. When you're doing quick visits and you have a bottom line and you're just trying to keep your job, it's hard to perform art.
Wow. So Doc, given the fact that we are finding ourselves in this space, is there a call or is there some discussion about, going or creating some type of alternative way to administer, to help, to care for people? I mean, it seems to me, and I could be really wrong on this, that the way the healthcare system is in this country and the impact that it has on its doctors, we're all losing. We're falling apart under this system.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, is this going to lead to some tipping point where doctors are going to create some internal revolution to push for alternative ways for us to provide care?
So I would love, I don't think it's happening in the moment. I hope for that. What I think you see is physicians leaving and going into taking their MD and their DO degree and becoming functional medicine and integrating neuropathic medicine, becoming business owners again, which was a big part of being a physician, 100 years ago, that we are leaving and finding more holistic options that give us more ability to perform medicine the way that we would like to do it, that we are seeing patients and seeing them in a new light. And those patients are gravitating towards that, getting out from under the insurance companies and having fee for service, simply because it's more actually affordable many times for the patient. You're not paying this regular fee that you never use, right? Yeah. And they're seeing patients in a way that is satisfying for the physician as well as for the patient. So I would love some sort of revolution so that we can stay within the healthcare system. But the underground revolution that I'm seeing is physicians walking away, even partially. I still do regular family medicine, but it's probably only 10, maybe 20% of what I do, because I found treating patients the way that they asked me to treat them through cannabis is what they were looking for.
So you're saying that now, with the cannabis industry growing, with there more talk about cannabis, that might be the alternative then, because that it's like an underground current right now for us to have, we might have to look at this form of dealing with some of the problems. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I suspect that when legalization happens and that there can be better compensation for physicians being in the cannabis space, so that they're able to possibly use insurance with patients or being able to integrate this in a more natural way, then you'll see more physicians actually kind of taking off their blinders and taking this on. But in the meantime, you need to have physicians there to do the job. And if we don't correct something now, there won't be the physician there to see these patients. I will say, keep in mind and think back that, the physicians that I saw or the experience that I had with my dad made me want to treat people and help. What are the kids now when they go and see a doctor that doesn't even look them in the eye? They're staring at the computer screen, right? They're not creating a relationship with the family, that they're not having an opportunity to be inspired by that doctor because the doctor is distressed, burned out, tired, cynical, and just moving every 10 minutes to the next patient. What type of new physicians are we creating? Because we're not inspiring a new generation of physicians that will care about patients.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know what? I would think that that type of care, for lack of a better word, would lead to a lot of misdiagnosis. You know, that lack of relationship building will lead to doctors missing certain things. It will lead to, you know, patients feeling like they're not in a safe space to fully disclose what's happening with them. And so people are going to be affected by that. You know what I mean? Patients are not going to be cared for. We may not see any innovation in medicine because as a result of that, I think it creates like this domino effect. That's what I'm thinking right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. That if we cannot feel cared for, it's hard to give care. When you are working from an empty bucket, how do you help others?
Dr. Bridget Cole Williams, let me do this, sis. Doc, I'm telling you, I think that's the place. I feel like the culture, we're slowly getting to a place where we are caring for each other, but most importantly, we're starting to care more about ourselves in relationship to the work. There are certain professions, though, that I truly believe that serve as like the pillars of any civilized society. You have your teachers, which we need to care for. We have our doctors. We have lawyers, of course, you know, those who run government, but you got to put in the medical industry. Mm-hmm. You got to put in those medical professionals. You got to make sure that they are cared for. And it is unfortunate that in those pillars, in each one of those industries, we see some of the greatest injustice or lack of care, right? But these are the people that hold a civilized society in a good place.
Yeah,
and
keep in mind that when you look at this, that the culture needs to change, because with each one of those specialties that you mentioned, there's a culture of the more you suffer, you get a bigger badge of honor, right? The less sleep you get, the more you push, the more you neglect your family, the more you do, the more you work. That's who gets the badge of honor, not the one with the balanced life. We have to change our culture and how we see wellness, period. And I would rather be a symbol of wellness and balance for my patients, so they would say, you know what, she's doing it, I'm going to do it too. Instead of being broken down, how can I influence my patient when I'm so broken and I'm trying to tell them to do better? How do I do that?
You can't.
And that's what we're looking at.
No, you can't.
Yeah. Let's
and
not
I think that's so important. I'm so happy you mentioned that. You can't.
Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about that level of wellness, right? And I have seen doctors, and I'm not expecting doctors to be perfect, right? Like, I understand everybody, we're all human, so I'm not expecting you to be perfect. But if you're looking more unhealthy than me, come on, doc. I mean, seriously. If I look in your face and I don't see life in those eyes, I don't see some level of radiance glowing from your skin. If I don't feel like you, if I feel like you tired,
yeah.
Then I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, are you okay, doc? You want to sit down? Look, I'm not a hard guy to get along with, so you can have a moment. We'll talk about my problems, but it looks like you got a lot on your mind. So you might want to just take a break, take a moment, And one of the things, like I take my children to the pediatricians and we talk. I mean, I know him. So I talk to him about family, talk about things that's happening. And I can just literally see, Doc, where when I talk to this man, it's like he gets to just 5 minutes just to kind of relieve just some burden, you know what I mean? And we laughing and we talking and we sharing and we building the relationship. And I'm like, it's okay. Like I'm telling the doctor, it's okay.
That's where we are. And God bless you for being that person, because you're adding a little light to that man's life. Yeah.
And when you talk about the cannabis industry, right? And I know that there are bigger conversations, but I haven't really heard about those doctors who are advocating for cannabis to be used as part of our medical, medical treatments and medical plans in this country in mass. Like talk to us. What would be the benefit of this industry, or the benefit of cannabis to, as we're looking at a system and looking at a phenomenon of doctor burnout, physician burnout? How would cannabis help in a situation like this?
The thing is that cannabis can help eliminate some medications for your patient. So you would be doing the work of helping patients get off of some meds as opposed to adding another. And that, for me, was one of the most rewarding parts of when I was working directly in a large health system, that I was helping patients get off of their medications. And that's why I do cannabis today. I help patients every day eliminate some of their medications. It also can be incredibly empowering for their patient, for the patient. So instead of me just giving another pill, and that you have really limited sometimes information about what's going to happen and how this works, I empower you to use cannabis in a way so that you know what your body needs, how to respond to it. And we don't have to sit around worrying about tons of side effects all the time, burning out your liver and your stomach and your kidneys. It's empowering. It feels safe. It allows patients to feel in control and help redefine what wellness means. And that's rewarding to a good physician.
Doc, you stating the case very strongly here. Let me just share with you what some of our Culture Crew members are saying as we're having this discussion. It's a lively discussion happening on YouTube and Facebook right now. And folks, I always appreciate y'all joining me. Real Brooklyn, you checked in and you said it's hard work working on gunshot wounds. Plus, people are living longer and more violence, a lot more strict insurance directives, and a lot more BS overall when it comes to healthcare. How about that, Real Brooklyn?
100%. You said it amazing, that we're in a more violent world. We're in a more cynical world where mental health is such an incredibly difficult thing to get good care for right now. Even getting a good appointment with your physician is hard to do as well. And so what happens? Those people end up in the ER because they put off their healthcare. They can't get an appointment. And to be an ER physician now, it's a hard job. It's a hard job. And when you're looking at the insurance, and everyone's walking into that situation stressed. The physician's stressed, the patient's stressed. They don't know what type of bill they're going to get at the end of this. And they don't even know if they're going to get quality health care when they're there. It's an incredibly difficult and taxing position to be in. We should have some confidence in what our healthcare can deliver, and that's hard right now.
Absolutely. Janelle, you checked in and you said, I am surprised that we have care providers after the COVID crisis because they really haven't gotten a break on any sustained respect. They barely have time for continuing education or research. Yes, that's a great point, Janelle. Thank you so much. And Dr. Bridget, when we look at, like, there hasn't been a downtime from COVID. I mean, now we're talking monkeypox. Now we're talking all of this other public health issues. But I mean, and maybe there has been some movement, especially for Black doctors, to be like, look, because of so much controversy around, everything from vaccinations to going to see your local physician. So, can you speak about this? Like, have we seen any major movement of doctors leaving the industry as a result of COVID, or because of the ongoing trauma after trauma, crisis after crisis with no break?
Absolutely. So we're seeing doctors and nurses leave healthcare. We're seeing people that were probably a little bit close to retirement saying, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and retire at this time. Because yes, we had the COVID crisis, but we're now just in COVID management at this point. So it's not like it's over. It's not like people are still dealing with it. People are still dying. People are still dying from COVID. However you might feel about it, people are still dying from COVID. And the fear, and even with all of our immunizations and our boosters, and if you haven't done it, do it. If you have concerns about it, make sure you have the right information. I don't force things on people, but I definitely recommend know what you know to make the decision that you're making. Okay.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, I always still recommend, at this point, from this end, I still recommend vaccination. And so when you're looking at all of this happening over and over and over again, no, there hasn't been an opportunity to recover, and that's unfortunate. People often treat the medical community like it's military, but military have service, and then they have a break, and they do service again, and they have a break. There's no break. A week's vacation is not a break.
Not if you're putting in 60, 70 hours every other week and you get a week off. Your brain just can't make the distinction all the time. It's not going to be like, oh, I got a week vacation. I know for me, and this is just for a weekend, that I need a 3-day weekend, Doc, because by the time Sunday come around, I'm just getting into relax mode.
Yeah. If you're looking at the people that are in the heart of intense medical management, there needs to be a tour of duty. And then when that tour of duty is there, there's an opportunity to really take that break. And I'm not saying, different healthcare systems do different things. ER physicians have always had days working and sometimes even a week off or more. I mean, they do realize something, but I don't know if it's enough.
Right. Some final comment that we got from our culture crew. This is, I think, is very important. Taylor, you checked in and said many Black doctors in my area are employees with these HMOs and group health organizations. They have to meet organizational goals. It's too expensive to have their own practices. For those of us, Dr. Bridget, who say, you know what, well, why don't Black doctors just open up our own thing? Why don't we just, we can create our own system, which I'm in favor of. But to break away from this current system to just create an alternative system, it has to be a smooth transition. So speak to that. Like, Black doctors possibly open up their own practices. You practice with the work that you're doing. That's not an easy thing. And is that a proper solution to what we're seeing right now? Is that the best solution, rather?
Medicine is expensive, and malpractice is incredibly difficult to afford. And so even when we look at physicians that do go off on their own, to be able to afford quality malpractice insurance for potential lawsuits, and we're in a sue-happy country, right? Everyone's looking for that big win like it's a lottery ticket. And so when that's the case, it's hard to leave. And when health systems help you be able to practice medicine, they can cover those costs. It allows you to have the latest equipment. It's expensive to be in the height and up to date with in the healthcare system when the bills are so high. So I love the idea that there are practices that are Black owned, and definitely there are practices that are. But a lot, as the comment was, a lot of us end up working for these, larger systems and are really cannot get away from the requirements and threats of insurance companies. Because keep in mind, you might bill for one thing, you're getting only a portion of that. Right. So people think that for every bill, that's what the physician's getting. The physicians aren't getting any close to that. Right. Because when you look at the malpractice on top of it, it's a difficult situation to be in.
Absolutely. Final point. We had Home Drone and FPV. They checked in. They had mentioned in our chat. I am so glad to hear this because I supposedly have fibromyalgia. I am in so much pain that I literally want to jump out of a window. Medical help is so hard to get. Wow. Home droning. I'm wondering, with those who are watching who are suffering from some sort of medical condition and hearing this, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? How do you first, what does home droning should do to be seen? And then how do we keep the hope alive, for lack of a better word, for us to get the right care at this time?
Yeah, so definitely have that person reach out to me because there's a lot that we could talk about to get quality care, number one. Okay. Number two, fibromyalgia is a really difficult diagnosis because it's a diagnosis of exclusion. A lot of physicians don't really take it on well. I know that when I was in a large health system, because of the complexities of it, I would often have them go and see someone that was out of network, that was really dealing with holistic care, because I felt that they did a better job than what we were doing in our health system. So fibromyalgia is not easy. You need to have quality conversations with people that will take the time to have them to really get to the heart of it. And CBD, just to start, or cannabis is definitely a great option for that. But if you are not satisfied with your healthcare, if you feel, because you know your body much better than I do, I don't care what knowledge I have, you live in it. If you feel that you're not being heard, you're not being seen, you're not getting the quality care that makes you feel better, that's the idea, not feel worse, then you need to reach out and find other resources, go out, do some holistic care, find other traditional doctors that are willing to hear your story, because quality healthcare is available. It's unfortunately, you just have to work hard to get it.
Absolutely. Hey, Doc, I'm going to have to keep on bringing you back on. You know that.
No, I always love talking to you. Always.
We really appreciate you. And, I think the conversation about the use of cannabis is so fascinating to me. So that's why I'm like, giving you an opportunity and a space to always talk about it, because it's so stigmatized, and I think a lot of people don't have the right information. And I think it's interesting still for us to present all of the facts and the factors that we need to consider as we have these conversations about medical care in this country. Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, her book is Courage in Cannabis, but more importantly, take a look at this book, folks. This is the book that she has written, but she's a health and wellness specialist, and she is a strong voice right here on The Culture. Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, thank you again for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's have a conversation about health and wellness. But let me share with you what the latest word is coming from the Food and Drug Administration about how they're looking to redefine the word healthy in our foods. We'll have that discussion up next. And then later, we're going to talk about how you can be courageous in your life in different ways. We'll be checking in with some authors about a new book that you definitely don't want to miss out on. So stay with us. A lot coming at you in the second hour of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Folks, welcome back to the second hour of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. Big shout out to Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams who checked in to give us some insight about the physician burnout phenomenon that we're seeing happening across the country. Very, very powerful discussion. We're certainly not going to just drop the ball on that part of the discussion. We really do need to take care of people that take care of us, right? And listening to Dr. Bridget just continues to open my eyes that there's so much that needs to be done. So much that needs to be done. And all of us, absolutely, when I say all of us, I'm talking about all of us are affected by the medical and healthcare system of this country. And the last thing I need is the doctor to not be doing their best, to not showing up to be their best, to not showing up to ready and to help and to heal all of us as much as we can. So this physician burnout is so important that we just continue to have the conversation on. And I'm really thankful that Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams took some time out of her schedule to be with us today. And I hope you enjoyed that segment as well. Also, folks, make sure that you continue the conversations with me. You can certainly follow me on all of my social media at The Real Farajii on Instagram, Farajii on Twitter, Farajii Muhammad on Facebook. As we have these conversations, I love to connect with you, follow back to the work that you're doing, the great things that are happening in your life. And let's continue to have these discussions, man. It is so important. And I'm always so grateful to have this platform to discuss these things with you, to tune in each and every day so I can share what I'm learning and when I'm learning, what I'm seeing, and for us to have a dialogue. So again, make sure y'all follow me on The Real Farajii on Instagram, Farajii on Twitter, and Farajii Muhammad on Facebook. Now, I wanted to bring up another subject that I think that you should at least be informed about, which is what the FDA is using. Now, I will say that because we had a conversation on this show about the FDA having closed door meetings with pharmaceutical companies and basically pharmaceutical companies buying into getting the nod from the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, on their medical products, right? We had that conversation. But this other conversation, which I think this is a side, this is going to be interesting to see how this flows and how this is going to happen. Now, let me just give you some context. The White House just had a hunger summit just a couple of days ago, right? I think it just happened yesterday. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris hosted this hunger summit to look at food, nutrition, and health and wellness, health in our country as it relates to food. Food is a big issue. Huge issue, folks. If we don't have a very, very real conversation about food, because food, and it's interesting, and this was brought up to me years ago, that we don't have an agency to just look at food. We have an agency that looks at food and drugs. And it's interesting that both of those things are under the one house. Food is very, very powerful. Let me share with you what the FDA is doing as they're looking to make some changes about how we define health in this country. Take a look at this, folks. The Food and Drug Administration, they announced some new rules yesterday for nutrition labels that can go in the front of food packages to indicate that they are healthy. Now, under the proposal, manufacturers can label their products healthy if they contain a meaningful amount of food from at least one of the food groups or subgroups, such as fruit, vegetable, or dairy, recommended by the dietary guidelines. They must also adhere to specific limits for certain nutrients such as saturated fat, sodium, and added sugars. For example, a cereal would need to contain 3/4 of an ounce of whole grains and no more than 1 gram of saturated fats, 230 milligrams of sodium, and 2.5 grams of added sugars per serving for a food manufacturer to use the word healthy on the label. Now, when we look at this, take a look again. We're talking about giving a new definition of healthy. And I'm putting this out there, but I want us to come back to it because I want to kind of go in depth around this conversation about, are we doing ourselves a due diligence on healthy food? Now, I've eaten meat. I've stopped eating meat. I've get back to eating meat. I've been a vegetarian. I've been a vegan. All of those things. And food determining what's healthy in this country, what is considered to be acceptable. I feel like this is just one of the biggest conundrums. If you know, and like I know, and I'm sure some of you probably already know this, that really, when we talk about health and wellness, it always starts in the kitchen, right? We know this. America knows this. The FDA knows this. But it's also in the kitchen. The kitchen can be the source of life, or it can also be your reason for death. I'm gonna say that again. The kitchen can be a source of life, or it can be the reason for death. And so it's interesting that we're going to see some new conversations about food or what's deemed to be healthy based upon these new metrics that the FDA is outlining. Now, this is being proposed. This is being proposed, saying that, essentially saying that it's not law, it's not etched in stone, but that this is something proposed to manufacturers of cereals and milk, of packaged goods and all types of food, right? And I'm wondering, how many of you actually take time to read the labels? How many of us actually take time to determine, to look at the count of everything from sugars? One of the things that we don't allow in my house is high fructose corn syrup. You know what I mean? Because we found the detrimental impact of how that adds to weight gain, unnecessary weight gain. How many of us are doing our due diligence? And I mean, be honest with yourself, and you ain't got a lot of me because I'm not in your home. But how many of us actually take the time to try to figure out what the best foods are? And I get it, folks. When you're already always on the run, especially if you have children, you move from here to there to get out of school. You don't have time to cook those home meals. You start running to the fast food joint. You start running to the places. I get it. Trust and believe. I understand it. I've been there. I get it. So it's always an ever, it's like one of these processes where you're always trying to make it work. But there is something that I think that we need to say, to stop and to reflect on: what are we putting into our bodies? What are we seeing based upon government standards? And more importantly, what's going to be the impact on all of us, right, when we talk about health and wellness? Now, I read another piece. It didn't say it in this particular article, but I think it came from CNN when I saw this, that they said that out of all the foods that we see on our shelves, that only 5% of the food actually label itself as being quote unquote healthy. 5%. You know what I mean? Like when you see that term, that label of healthy, but they brought up this point in this article on CNN that you can see you can look at a box of cereal, your favorite sugary box of cereal. It might meet the same metrics. It might meet the healthy metrics of the FDA, and so they can say healthy, versus something else like a piece of meat, like a piece of salmon. They might say, you know what? It doesn't have healthy, even though that piece of meat is much healthier than a box of cereal, right? So we're in a time that we have to be more vigilant about the foods that we eat. We have to be more vigilant about what we're putting into our bodies, because as we know, you are what you eat. Remember that term, that mantra, but more importantly, it affects everything that we do. Especially, and here's the thing, folks, here's the pushback that I see, especially within our community, that it takes Black folks so long to move in a different dietary direction when it comes to everything from veganism, vegetarianism, lactose intolerance, being gluten-free. We seem to be so slow on moving into a different dietary direction. And I think it's killing us. To say it bluntly, it's killing us. We hold on to food. And I think that it is important that we're going to try to do our best to try to get a dietitian on it, because we know that the relationship that one has with food, that you have with food, that I have with food, it's not just about being hungry, physically hungry. There's something else to it. There's an attachment, emotional attachment, psychological attachment. And so there has to be a conversation about healthy foods. All right, let me hear your thoughts on this very quickly, because folks are checking in. I would love to hear what you say. Fraternal House, you checked in and said, how many black women still fry with Crisco? I'm not even going to put that on black women, because that's how many brothers, how many black people still fry with Crisco. I remember growing up eating King syrup. Y'all remember that? I don't know if y'all remember that, but in Baltimore, King syrup was king. That thick molasses that was like high fructose corn syrup, putting it on pancakes, putting it on your waffles. You know what I'm saying? And when I think back on that, that was not good. It just wasn't good. It tastes good at the time. But I'm saying, to the health and wellness, when you think about obesity, when you think about digestive issues, when you think about overall energy, that wasn't good. So we gotta, and look, and I get it, because part of the thing around food for us is that if you start taking away people's food choices, you setting yourself up for a battle. People are willing to throw blows for some ribs. That's the reality, folks. That's the place we're in. And I'm laughing because I've had many conversations about my diet that people felt offended. Oh man, you eat like that? Couldn't eat like you. Okay, brother, that's all. Man, please. Ain't nobody taking away. No problem. No problem. Taylor, you checked in. How many of us actually eat a serving size that's on the pack? Look, let me tell you, Taylor. I remember I did a little experiment. When you actually do a actual serving size that's prescribed on the packages. Now, this is FDA. The FDA, they put out these guidelines and put out these policies. They, like I said, like they're trying to, redefine healthy, and they're telling manufacturers are, okay, fine, we want to adhere to these guidelines, so we're going to put these prescribed servings on it. Because they tell you the servings, like a bag of chips, right? The chips, if you say 15 chips equals this many calories versus the whole bag is 400 plus calories, right? That's what it is. Because guess what? Just as much, and here's the part, Taylor, that you may not already know, but the psychological side of it is, yes, they tell us the serving size, but guess what? They make us want more than just the serving size, right? Like when you're looking at a commercial for food, they might say, okay, your serving sizes are 2 slices of pizza. But if you see a pizza commercial and they're showing you the pizza all gooey and all hot and cheesy, and you're like, man, I'm getting 3-4 slices in one sitting. That's in the morning. And then, so psychologically, there's a lot that we have to kind of work through. Taylor, good to hear from you. Thank you so much. Janine L, hey, y'all. Janine, you checked in and say, also, you can't talk about this topic without asking yourself, why is Bill Gates buying up farmland? Ooh. You know why? Food distribution is a major, major lobby in this country. And I hate it. I hate everything going back to politics, but money. But this is America. This is what happens. So, yes, that has to be a part of the conversation, Janine. Absolutely. Thank you for checking in. Precious Mitchell, you said an article I read says it's harder to change your eating habits than your own religion. Damn. My fault. Like, what? So you mean to tell me we can stop believing a fundamental truth such as religion, right? Because all your religions, they have fundamental truths to it. All your major religions and stuff, right? You mean to tell me that is easier to change, a fundamental thing about nature, fundamental things about spirituality, fundamental things about God is easier to change than your diet? We got some work to do, folks. We got some work to do. Precious, I appreciate you bringing that point up. Wow. Never heard that one, but if that is the case, Man, we got some work to do. Michelle Ray. Michelle, good to hear from you. You said as you get older, the body's metabolism slows down drastically, and the fat is harder to lose, have to stay physically active. Right. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. We're living in a time, Michelle, and this is why I think that we need to have this, a much more in-depth conversation, and why I just wanted to kind of put this out there for us to start thinking about, is because even if you try to eat the best food, right, it costs more. Even if you try to eat the best food, right, you got to ask yourself, by whose standards is this considered to be healthy? This is why we're having this discussion, because if the FDA says that a sugary box of cereal meets the standard of healthy based upon the contents and the metrics of sodium and sugar and all of those things, right? But if you eat a box of your favorite sugary cereal, that's not going to lead you, that's not going to empower your body to be your best. If you know that, then that's why we have to ask this question, by whose standards are we defining our health? Not to say we should push back. Maybe we should push back on once the FDA decides, or once a decision is made on whether, the new definition of healthy is accepted. But you got to ask, healthy to who? That's the question. Michelle, thank you so much for checking in. Vincent Morales, you checked in and said, my friend was on a diet. I went to grab his food and say, now he growled at me with hate. Damn. Don't touch the wife's food, Vincent. Come on, bro. Can't do that, sir. Oh, man, you can't do that at all. No, sir. No, sir. I'm telling you, food is, you know how they often talk about in the scriptures, when they talk about the idols, you know what I'm saying? Like idols, you cannot, food has become a huge idol for people. Like, like you're going back to that religious piece, like you can change gods, you can change beliefs, but don't change my diet. It's an idol. We take that very personally. Even though, here's the crazy part, even though logically we may love something that we know that is not in the best interest of our health and well-being, it's so hard to give up because it satisfies, it satiates the pleasure part of ourselves, right? Like when you eat a good piece of chocolate cake, or when you eat your favorite foods, it ain't just about filling your stomach up. It does something to your brain. Your brain is like, we will never leave this piece. Okay. You know what I'm saying? We will fight for this cake. Sophia checked in. You said, I would also say people who may be a veteran that's been overseas would change their diet habits. Lord, my first overseas duty station, Aviano, Italy, I dreamed I was at the drive-thru at Rudy's Chicken. Damn. Rudy's Chicken must be bussing. You in Italy thinking about some chicken? I'm a foodie, so I get it. Janae, thank you so much, Sophia. Janae, you said, yes, they say sugar is more addictive than crack, so I believe we need to decolonize our tongues to alter our taste buds fast once in a while. Facts. Look, I get more pushback on eating different diet than on anything else. You know what I'm saying? Like people like, oh, okay, you believe this way? Oh, okay, you live in this way? Oh, okay, you eat what? What? Black folks, we love to be like, man, I don't eat that. And let me just tell you, if you are working in the restaurant industry, working in the food industry, look, let me tell y'all something. To shift gears on gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian, lactose, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's not going to cost you that much. You're going to get that money in return with a little switch of the type of flour that you use, or the type of milk that you use, or anything like that, type of cheese that you use, right? That little investment in that little change, you're going to reap the benefits, because Black folks, and I'm saying this, folks, I think Black people in our country, we are opening the eyes to the importance of health, proper eating, better diets. I think we're all getting to a better place with this, right? I really do. But we in our community, we have to not be so resistant to offer something to accommodate these different dietary needs that we have. All right. And you're right. Sugar is like crack. Charlene, Thank you for checking in. Charlene Frazier, you said some foods and tastes are addictive. Self-discipline is a power player in eating right to stay healthy. Facts. Ain't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Oh my gosh, yes. But you gotta, again, it's about changing our palates, about opening ourselves up. You can't eat fast food all day. Y'all know, come on, man. Y'all, we grown folks here. You know the fast food stuff don't do well on your stomach. Stop it. Stop it. Y'all know it. You know them fast food joints, you probably be like, you tell yourself, you try to trick your own self thinking that it's not affecting you. It affects you. I'm tired of lying to myself. No, dog, it affects me. I can't eat certain food. I can't go to this place. It affects me. At this point, we're trying to stay healthy. I'm not trying to be broke down because of a burger or because of some tacos or because, no. And where you get your food says a lot. If the place is not clean, if they don't value changing gloves, cleaning the utensils, cleaning the space, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? We can't keep eating this madness. We can't get eaten. So I wanted to just bring this up to look at this. And the FDA in this piece that the Washington Post posted, I'm going to just throw this up there very quickly, then we're going to take another quick pause. The FDA brought the writer of this article add this question. They said, "But what constitutes healthy food is a thorny topic among nutrition experts. With foods high in what many nutrition scientists call good fats, such as those that contain almonds or avocados, be deemed unhealthy, whereas artificially sweetened fruit snacks or reduced fat sugary yogurts might be considered healthy." See, that's the time that we're living in today, folks. Things that you would think would be healthy might be deemed unhealthy, and the things that you would think unhealthy might be deemed healthy based upon someone else's standard of what health is. We got to have a much more deeper conversation, but I'm just letting you know there is a conversation that's happening in Washington right now to determine what is healthy, what is not healthy, and what's nutritious and what's not nutritious. And at this point in our culture and in our consciousness and knowledge, we have to say, am I going to accept somebody else's standard, or I'm going to reject it and do what I think is best? Good guidance. And that's based upon good guidance. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk a little bit about how we can be much more courageous and having uncomfortable conversations about racism. We're going to be checking in with two women who wrote a book called Courageous Discomforted. We're going to be checking in with Shatira McBride and Rosalind Wiseman to talk to us about their new book. Stay with us. That discussion is up next here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, it's time for us to have our final conversation today. And I wanted to have one about the big issue of racism. We're going to be talking to two women, Shatira McBride and Rosalind Wiseman, to talk about their new book, Courageous Discomfort, how to have important, life-changing conversations about racism and why it's important in this day and time, especially that we get out of our comfort zones. And trust and believe, folks, once we get out of our comfort zone, which is what I think is one of the key goals of this platform, once we get out of the comfort zone, then we can honestly move forward. We can have the progress that we are all seeking to make. All right, I want to bring in our sisters, Shatira McBride, Rosalind Wiseman. Shatira, Rosalind, thank you so much for joining us today. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, first and foremost, ladies, let's talk about this book that is about courageous discomfort. Man, here's the copy of the book. Take a look at this book. First and foremost, Shatira, when does this book drop? Is it already out or what?
It's out. Yes, thank you for having us. And it dropped September 27th. So this week, Tuesday.
Awesome. Yes. Awesome. Well, congratulations to both of you ladies for having this book. Now, Rosalind, talk to us. What was the inspiration behind, even having a book, writing a book about courageous discomfort?
Well, Shatira and I have been educators and experts in social emotional learning and having difficult conversations for a long time. As educators, we've worked together for many, many years, and then we've worked apart but supported each other. And we go to communities that all over the country, and there's this sense that we can't talk to each other anymore, and that there's no point. And we both really believe that belief is stopping us from making progress, and it also feeds into people who want to take that belief and further divide us and for their own political and financial gain. And so we know that we can do better, and we wanted to be a part of that.
So in our efforts to be better, there has to be some ground rules, I would think, to even have these conversations, right, Shatira? Like because when you have conversations about race in modern day America, that can go left like real quick. So what are some of the things that you ladies had to think about as serving as some of the ground rules for having a conversation of this magnitude?
Yeah, well, Rosalind and I have known each other since way back in the day, since it's 1998. And
y'all were like friends. Y'all like friends.
Friends.
That's exactly how we say it. That's exactly how we say it. We're friends. Exactly.
And so I think part of our friendship is that, especially the summer of 2020 was crazy for everybody, and watching someone lose their life. And I have not watched the video of George Floyd. I can't. But being able to share with her some of the text messages I was receiving, some of the emails, and well-intentioned white folks asking, should I send you dinner? Should I send you flowers? What can we do? And it was like, this is not it. And so being able to be honest with Ross, because we have history, we've known each other for so long, and saying to her, this is the stuff that people are sending me, and I'm shaking my head. And I really see that people want to be allies, or they want to be, and we're moving from being an ally to, they want to be advocates in ending systemic racism. They don't know how, they don't know where to begin. And so we decided to write the handbook for people who want to know how, but don't know where to begin.
So where do we begin with this? What's the first couple of steps, Ross? I'm gonna call you Ross because now we friends at this point.
You can. Well, I also want to say there were so many books that came out, around this, 2020, and when we were getting ready to start, this book, and there was some amount from people in the industry of like, well, that's been done. There's just too many books out there, all that stuff, and what we of course knew is that this issue was not going away. And we knew, unfortunately, that there would be a quietness after the initial, oh, I care so much. And we also knew that our specialty of being able to give very concrete advice about how you have conversations with people was the missing ingredient, which gets me to answering your question, which is, we do not think that it is coddling people or white people or anybody to prepare them for a conversation. So much baggage and all different kinds of ways to the conversation. We've got to get them skilled to be able to have it so that they can hold themselves accountable, so they can actually make a difference in their lives. And so, and in other people's lives, and address some of the systemic racism and the institutional things that we're up against, and in our day-to-day lives, in our day-to-day relationships. So one of the goals that we have is for people to read this book and to take something from here, something seemingly small, which is to be able to stay present with somebody in your family who seems to deliberately want to say, you are wrong, you are naive, you don't get this, all of those things, and be able to have to move the relationship in a way that repair is possible, but that dignity is not negotiable for anyone. And Shantara, should I talk respect, or you want to do respect?
Well, I mean, I can do respect, because I think, growing up in a Black household, we know who to respect. We know we're supposed to respect our elders. We're supposed to respect that auntie that says something that, you just look at her with the sideway, the side eye, that uncle that says something, and people make excuses for what they say or their behavior because they're older. And there is a difference in respect and dignity. And I think a lot of times when we talk about respect, it's really something that is earned. And for our families, it's elderly. They've earned the right to say whatever they want. Right. When it comes to treating people with dignity, that's something that's not earned. That's something that you get because you take a breath in this world. And when we look at systemic racism and inequalities and injustice in our country, we are talking about people, Black people, Indigenous people, people of color, not being treated with dignity. And so a lot of times, white people really run away from the word racism, and they don't want to hear that the R word is such a bad word. And so I found that if I say, okay, let's talk about dignity, because that's a good word, that's a safe word. And so when you are talking about people being systemically harmed, or when you talk about people being mistreated, when you talk about the rate of our prisons being filled with Black and brown people, when you talk about the inequality from police, let's say that person is not being treated with dignity. Is that better?
And also, Shantara, so I want to say that dignity is not a soft word. So so it's not pulling away from what's really happening to call it that. It's that it is saying it is the affirming of someone's right to be somewhere. And so we find it to be like a stronger, more powerful in some ways, to be able to say what we are about is that people's dignity is being taken away. It is being stripped away. And the word respect in our culture is often actually used as a way to talk about power imbalance. And there's people who take advantage of the positions of respect that they hold to not treat people with dignity, because we feel like we can't disrespect the position, no matter who the person is in that position, especially when they are abusing power. And so it is really important in our, and also one other thing is that when you're not in that position of respect, you feel that you can't speak against that power, that authority, because you know you will not be taken seriously because the institution will go up against you. So again, it's not about, we want to use the word respect powerfully. We want to use it for what it actually means. And we want to separate dignity from respect, because we are finding that when we talk dignity to people, Respect does need to be earned, but dignity is a given. And you can't argue the point of dignity is not negotiable. And so for this book, we are really, and for all of our work, we are focused on, we want people's experiences to be seen and valued and acknowledged. And when we do that, we can get to a better place.
So Roz, and I'm hearing from both you and Shantara, like I'm hearing a lot of great things. And I feel like part of the conversation about racism, well, two things. One is we can't have a conversation about racism until we are ready to open and acknowledge truth, right? That when we look at what has happened in this country to Black people, to Latinos, and to marginalized communities by white people, you know, that part of the conversation goes all the way out the window. I see some of my culture crew, online culture crew members saying, we automatically jump to love and acceptance. We automatically jump to the fact that, we're all human beings, right? And it's like, okay, I get all that. I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let's deal with the present moment.
Yes.
Where institutional racism exists, where Black people are suffering as a result of policy, as a result of hatred from white supremacists and all of those things. Let's be honest about what's happening in this moment before we get to the humanity part, because there seems to be a lack of concern about Black humanity in this country. And I'm saying, to Roz, how did we get white people to be honest, to accept this truth, and
right.
why are Black people always the ones that we got to make the first step to deal with racism when we're the ones that are oppressed by it?
Right. Well, and also, how is it like I can hear this and not fall down because I'm so offended or so like, I can't take it, right? Right? Like, I can't do this, right? I mean, so there's so much in what you're saying, and so I'll start, Shantara. And one of the things I want to be clear about, you know, Shantara and I both have a lot of experience working with teenagers who keep us sharp, keep us. You know, they're so cynical, and I still have a lot of cynicism. And I really hear about the thing of, you know, we're talking about humanity, and does that, you know, that seems, and what I'm hearing, maybe I'm wrong, is that it's like it's too soft, or dignity in some ways does not give the gravitas, and maybe I'm wrong as I'm hearing this, but doesn't give the gravitas of the pain that has been inflicted in Black and brown communities for so long, since the beginning of this current political system,
right?
And of the last 400 years. And so, so I want to be very clear that our principle of dignity guiding our thoughts and our actions is the beginning. That guides us, and then we go to tactics. And so when, for example, so I'll get like real, you know, in the weeds here, which is that so a lot of white people, well-meaning, like Shantara talked about earlier, have a person in their family who just waits for Thanksgiving every year so they can come up with their research and their links and all their, you know, facts about why racism doesn't exist and systemic racism doesn't exist, and completely, you know, doesn't want to hear all of the things that you just correctly said. And the white person who's the ally, the well-intentioned ally, gets really caught up, sits at that Thanksgiving table, gets more and more angry, sits on it, doesn't really know what to do. The family dynamics are happening, you know, goodness knows all the different family dynamics that we all have. And, you know, then at some point just explodes, and then they explode, and then they are seen as being dramatic or being naive or being all of this stuff. And then the family dynamics sort of fold onto it. And then it's sort of racism as a way of using a tool to exploit the power dynamics in the family.
Let me interrupt real quick, Roz.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think this is an interesting point. Do white people, you're saying white people are talking about racism even at the dinner table? Is that what I'm hearing from you? Is that something?
Yes,
and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be facetious at all. I'm trying to be real, because I think
surprising to you?
To my Black audience, they probably be like, "What? Y'all talking about this at Thanksgiving?" So you got white people sitting around a table
Yes.
And look, I'm not making a broad stroke that all white people think the same. So I know that there are varying levels of
There are a lot
consciousness.
of people over Thanksgiving table who are starting to dread Thanksgiving dinner right now because of the dynamics that I've just described.
Wow.
Because they're going to be told they're naive. They're going to be told, well, our family was Irish and we came from Ireland. And by the way, you know, one of the things that's so incredible is how the civil rights movement in this country was inspired so many other civil rights movements around the world. For example, in Ireland. And so it's when there are family dynamics, and these are power dynamics, right? And I'm telling you, yes, there are people. We're at UT right now. We had a conversation. A young woman asked us yesterday about like who is white, saying, I'm going to have this problem. Like I'm already dreading it. And we want to be able to give those people a way to, with dignity, with strength, with competency, repair, but keep themselves safe and advocate for themselves and for the understanding of acknowledging the dignity, the right of dignity for Black and brown people, that they can sit at the dinner table. And when it gets heated, or when that person tries to get them all heated up, that they have the skills to be able to say, look, this is clearly a really important issue for you, and I want to have this conversation. We are not going to be having it right now. So when do you want to have the conversation? We can have it after dessert. We can have it tomorrow morning for, whatever, but do you want to take a walk tomorrow morning? But we're not having it right now.
Ross, so you're saying basically some folks like yourself and others, y'all be like, we can have dinner right now, but trust and believe we can come back to this issue. So I'm gonna set an appointment for this ass whipping. Like, we can do this now and stay and go to war, or we can have this cheesecake and some coffee. And do this
which is why because people are not going to Thanksgiving dinner anymore. They're dreading they're dreading it. So we can and it doesn't mean that we're not holding that person responsible. What we're saying is, you want to have this conversation. This is clearly important to you, and we can have it. When do you want to have it? I'm going to say that we're not having it right now, but when do you want to have this? And that respects the position, right, of the person. But it also says, I'm not somebody to be trifled with, and I'm going to also take care of myself so that when I do have this conversation, I'm going to have the best chance of being taken seriously and hold myself strong.
Yeah.
This is fascinating stuff, ladies. Let me just tell you. No, I'm serious. And the reason it's fascinating because I've read like I read White Fragility. I'm reading, and Brother Roland has had a number of like Jane Elliott and Tim Wise and other whiteness scholars on to talk about his new book, White Fear, is talking about this very issue. I mean, we're having a very different conversation. And one of the things that I'm learning as I'm understanding and taking a look at the culture is that white people actually are diving deeper into trying to uproot racism and white supremacy on their own. And just as much as we're having the conversation on this space and this platform talking about the impact of white supremacy, I believe that there is another set of conversations that are happening among white people about the origin and the sustainability of white supremacy, right? And its impact on white people. Because you can't have all of these, and I'm going back to you with this one, Shantara, like you can't have all of these power dynamics that are like at odds with one another. And then the foundation of this country without the foundation of this country truly being uprooted and questioned and most importantly, changed. Like you can't do it. Absolutely. Like this country has to come to grips with its history, and this country has to come to grip with where we are based upon how we got to this place.
Yeah, one of my favorite statements, and forgive me for cutting you off, but one of my favorite statements is when white people say slavery was so long ago. And I look at and I look at that excuse, or I look at that like get over it, or we're not there now, or I've never been mean to a Black person in my life. But that slavery was so long ago is one of the favorite go-to statements.
Right.
And it's one of those things where if you look at what's happening in our country systemically, when you look at jobs, when you look at our prison system, when you look at our police system, when you look at all the systems and institutions that were set up, that foundation is trash. And you can't build anything good on trash because it's still going to smell like trash. And so this whole idea of not of the excuse that slavery was so long ago, so get over it, is something that can no longer be used because it's still present. It may not be chattel slavery. It may not be, different labeled water fountains. It may not be sitting in the back of the bus, but it is still, we still have systems that were built on that foundation. And so I think politically, a lot of white people are having conversations around dinner tables. And I love there was a comment that said, are they having this conversation once a year because that's not enough? You are absolutely right. It should not only be happening, at holidays, when we get to the end of the year, it needs to be happening all the time. But I think a lot of it starts with politics. I think for a lot of people looking at social media and look at what people are posting, and then they come, whether it's a holiday dinner, whether it's a family birthday party, whatever it is, they come ready with their ammunition to prove that this person is wrong. And so there are a lot of people, we can look at history. We've always had allies. We had people, who didn't look like Dr. King march with Dr. King. And then after Brother Malcolm went to Mecca, he realized, wait a minute, there are people who don't look like me who I can call brother and sister. So we've always had allies in the movement, in the fight for equality. And so this isn't anything new, but I agree with you. I think that it is something that white people need to really understand, that they have to be a part of these conversations, and they have to have the hard conversations starting with themselves and in their families.
So the goal, just one real quick thing which is that the reason that people aren't talking to each other in answer to that question is because Thanksgiving is one of the few times when families are getting together. And because so many people have stopped connecting with each other because of social media, and they've defriended their, who they perceive to be racist or whatever on social media. So the people aren't actually talking to each other the way they used to. So my hope is that at this Thanksgiving, that there will be one, and that these moments when we actually have to get together, that it will be that this book somehow does contribute to people taking one way of having a conversation with somebody that they have stopped being in connection with. And then after that, then they will be more in connection with each other. But people aren't talking to each other except for Thanksgiving. So that's the concrete goal, Thanksgiving. And then we followed up with actually talking.
You know what? I think it's a great point. I mean, especially now in this time of year, we go out to, embark upon the holiday season. And so a lot of our families are going to get together. And so it's good to know, Roz, that this is happening. And then Shantara, it's also good to know that that there is a guide on this. And I'm wondering, ladies, as we wrap up this part of the discussion, I'm wondering, when we talk about the politics of this thing, and I think the politics has made the conversation around race in this country so muddy, and that we all need to be kind of cleansed from that. But when you're talking about the time, the place, who to have these conversations with, how is that determined? Because we're talking about from everything. Yes, we can talk about race from a historical perspective. But you got CRT that is happening in schools, when you have what we saw with January the 6th, when you're talking about the role of white supremacist ideology in politics, when you're talking about all of these other things, how do we determine the best time, place, and who to have these conversations with? Because I know that there's a growing and new consciousness about race that is emerging in this country, but we need to figure out how to unite all of these efforts, because we need to go up against a larger force of old history and white supremacy.
So, can I?
So, Roz, you can take that.
I have to say, I mean, I've been working in parenting for a real long time, and getting parents to talk to another parent when there's a problem between kids is hard enough. And what's happened, which is really frustrating, is that yes, the conversations are happening, but parents have been so, we hear the extremes of the parent who just goes off all the time. But then there's obviously a whole group of people on all different kinds of issues. But basically, when dignity is being taken away from somebody, who don't say anything because they're too scared, and they're like, oh, I'm not a conflict person, or it's like, you can't change anybody. You can only change yourself. Like all these things that we do to rationalize actually not doing the work. And what I want, and I've been saying, and I'm going to keep saying, because we work a lot with parents and people in schools and communities that way, is when you're at a PTA meeting and people start saying, we can't have these books in this library, we can't use the word equity or inclusion in classrooms like I was dealing with in Colorado last year, that you as a parent say, it is not political, and it is not a political agenda to keep children safe and feel that they belong in a classroom, and that every child walking into this classroom feels that they are to be treated with dignity and worth, and that everyone in this school must be treated with dignity and worth, no matter how righteous you think your cause. That cause does not give you the right or the excuse to go after people and strip them of their dignity. It doesn't give you the right to take away the voice of young people and take away how important it is to listen to young people about their experience in school. And Shantara and I, just before we got on with you, were with a group of postgraduate students. And Shantara said, and I 100% agree, is that we've been in education for so long. We have never, ever had the experience of a white child saying to us that they felt guilty after hearing about the presence and reality and truth of race and racism in this country. Never have either of us had that experience.
Ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
CRT isn't real. It isn't real. It's a political way to get white children comfortable in white schools. It has nothing to do with guilt. It has nothing to do with shame, because if you're doing the work authentically, if you're doing the work, and when I speak of the work, I mean of ending racism, of being anti-racist, then you shouldn't lead with shame. And so I shouldn't have to create, false truths, that I shouldn't have to create this fear, this narrative. But we know that the billions of dollars are made off of fear.
Yeah.
And that, right? So if it's a way that I could scare you in thinking that your child is going to feel ashamed and feel uncomfortable in class, then we need to be afraid of that, and we need to stop it. When you lead with truth, and when you are authentic, and when, as any educator will tell you, I have no interest in shaming a student. It's not real, right? And so if we don't teach the truth, and when I say the truth, I mean, if we don't teach history, if we don't teach current events, if we don't talk about this, our young people are also looking at us like, do y'all think we are crazy? Do you think we don't have social media? Do you think we can't read? Like they call us foolish because of this idea of thinking we are doing this to protect you. But we need to call it what it is. We are doing this to protect white children in classrooms.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Shantara McBride, Rosalind Wiseman, I am so grateful and thankful to both of you ladies for putting out this book for us to even have a courageous conversation about race. And it's important. But more importantly, I'm thankful that both of you and folks are checking in online and say they appreciate the transparency and appreciate the authenticity, that we can at least have these discussions. And so, folks, the book is called Courageous Discomfort: How to Have Important Life-Changing Conversations About Race and Racism. There's the book, folks. 20 tough questions about race and racism answered by these two dynamic women educators that are doing a fantastic job of bringing some level of awareness and light to the dark conversation of race and racism in this country. So, Shantara, Rosalind, thank you so much for being here on the show. What's the website? How can folks get more information about the work that both of you are doing?
If you go to courageousdiscomfort.com, you can order the book from your local independent bookstore, because we know the importance of supporting our communities. And you can also, if we're in, we're on book tour right now, if we're in a city near you, you can come to see us. If we are not coming to a city near you, complain and get us there. But if you go to courageousdiscomfort.com, you will see all the information, including if you want to have a book club discussion, we have some questions there already for you.
There it is. Look at that beautiful website. Look at those ladies right there.
I know, there we are.
There you are. There you go, right there. All right, folks. Look at that. There it is. Courageous Discomfort, Conversations about Race and Racism. Here are the two authors, Rosalind Wiseman, Shantara McBride. Ladies, I got to have you ladies back on, but I appreciate you so much for joining us here today on The Culture on the Black Star Network. We truly, truly thank you and appreciate you. Keep up the great work, ladies.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Man, oh man, what a great conversation and what a great show we had today. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Make sure y'all continue to support us here at the Black Star Network, right on our website at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com, and support us like never before. Also, make sure y'all hit me up on my social media at The Real Farajii on IG, Farajii at Twitter, and Farajii Muhammad on Facebook. Let's continue to have the conversations. Look, get the books. Let's continue to have the discussions. I'm just very, very excited. Big shout out to my online culture crew. Y'all keep doing it each and every day. I see you. I appreciate you. I love you. I thank you so, so much for just guiding the conversation. So many of you, you don't know how important your voice means to me personally. So when I hear y'all, when I see y'all checking in, when I hear you, we may not be able to get to all of the comments and the posts, but trust and believe I'm reading it, and I love the way that we're moving. I love the way that we're thinking. So keep up the great work and supporting what we're doing here on The Culture. All right, folks, stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered, the big bro. He got his show, RMU, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Big shout out to my team. I want to thank Joel and Shannon. I want to thank Ariel. And we got Ariel, and I thank my man King Keenan. And I want to thank them so much and my fantastic control room for making this show so great and so impactful the way it is. So thank you, thank you, thank you. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.